My buddy Ryan asked me an interesting question, and he said, hey, Chael, how does an athlete know, fighter specifically, how does a fighter know when his time is up? And he asked me it at great timing because I just got done reading this article. Anderson Silva came out just recently and said, I wanted out of the sport. I wanted to retire before my first fight with Chris Weidman. You know, I told the UFC I'm losing touch with my family. I'm spending too much time in the gym or the travel. I had enough good moments and enough good memories, and I'm going to ride off in the sunset. And then he ended up telling his wife and said, okay, I'm going to go do this fight with this guy named Chris Weidman, and if I beat him, I'm done. Something happens, and, maybe I got to fight him again and get my belt back. But if I beat him, I'm done. In that process, he then has what's arguably the most gruesome injury in the sport. So now, what Anderson had to go through physically and mentally to rebuild, just to get that leg better, just to go out, just to try one more time. It's very hard for me to answer the question, how does an athlete know when to be done? It's very hard. I can only observe other cases. And generally, guys, when we observe other cases, we all come to the same conclusion, which is about 3 fights before he decided to be done. That's when he should have been done. I can look back at Lennox Lewis and I can look at George St. Pierre, and I do not believe that I could offer you a single other example of anybody that got out at the right time. It's just not the way that it works. I think we're seeing it right in front of our eyes with Floyd Mayweather, who is just refusing to get out. At some point, Floyd is going to experience the same thing of, oh my goodness, that last one should have been the last one. There's a reason I retired 4 times. Every time I said I'm retired, I meant it. I was done, but then something pulled me back. And the lifestyle and the attention, the fame, if you will, for lack of a better word, is a drug. It's very, very addictive. It's very seductive to get up and go to the gym and, work out. And even in those workouts, you get a release of something called endorphins, which then puts you in a really good mood. When I tell you it's a drug to the highest of levels. Walking into those arenas, dealing with that fear, getting your hand raised should you be lucky enough, being in battle and being able to compete even on the worst case scenario where you come in second. Just something that's very hard to replicate or duplicate. It's one of the reasons you keep seeing these guys come back. Every time a guy comes back, he has to deal with a level of embarrassment that he spent all of his money. Guys, that is a piece of it. I will admit that happens a lot of times, but that has nothing to do with it a lot of times too. The guy just thinks he has more. But it's the same guy thinking he has more later in life that made the same decision earlier in life that he didn't have anymore. So the comebacks are always a really tough one. And when you do have a comeback that's successful, the George Foreman stories of the world, it's a remarkable thing. And it's not just remarkable from a physical standpoint that he was able to do it. It's a mental drill. It is a mental drill. I will just tell you, athletes at some point, everything becomes a job at some point. No matter how cool something is or how much you dreamed of it or how much you want to do it, at some point when you have to get up and do it, it's now a job and you get a little bit tired of it. And when that starts to happen, look, I can tell you if the work is in place, you can get an outcome any night you want. You can go pull an upset any night you want if the work is in place. If you've done all of the work and now you just need a good run of luck, something to go your way, you can go out and accomplish really great things, but you do need to ask yourself a very honest question, which is the work in place? Did I put in the miles? Did I leave practice early? Was I showing up late? Was I finding reasons to not show up at all? That's a very real thing too. I could name for you a number of athletes that I watched do this. I just watched them. One guy in mind specifically who did not have a ton of athleticism, but golly, he worked hard. And all of a sudden, he got into fishing, and he quit coming to practice, but he kept going out there in those competitions, and it just changed night and day. There's nothing wrong with that. He wanted to go and live life and go and enjoy something else. He certainly earned the right. But an athlete does need to ask themselves, there's some things that are quantifiable. Lifting weights is quantifiable. Those plates have a number on the side of them. Are you lifting as much or more than you were lifting 2 years ago? It's a very fair question. And there's not a lot of things that you can actually check and test. It's usually somebody on the outside, like a coach or a trainer, looking and going, I don't like what I'm seeing here. But for you yourself, there's only a few things. A mile run would be a great example. Pull-ups would be a great example. How fast are you running that mile? How fast are you running 2 miles in comparison to what you were doing in previous training camps of previous years? Maybe you're getting better. But having things and finding things that you can actually quantify takes a level of discipline. What do you weigh 6 weeks out before a weigh-in? What do you weigh 3 weeks out before a weigh-in? Go back and look. What did you weigh 2 years ago, 6 weeks out before a weigh-in, and 3 weeks out before a weigh-in? Did you have the discipline to write those things down in a journal? I would tell you, my coach, Clayton Hires, I never showed up to a practice that he didn't have a journal. And it was all Chael stuff. It was like a daily diary. He would have dates. He would have who the opponent was, how many days out we were for the fight, exactly what I weighed, how many bags on the round I did, how many bags I did on the jumper. I mean, but he would break these things down. We go do a mile run. He wouldn't just, it was a 3-mile run, uphill, by the way, hardest workout I've ever done in my life. Had to do it every single Sunday. But he wouldn't just test from start to finish where I was at. He had checkpoints along the way. How fast is he to the rock? How fast is he to the bench? Ran outside of this thing that had some landmarks, and but it was all written down. It was written down for 8 years. I'd call him today. He'll still have that log. I guarantee if I ever told him I'm going to do a comeback, the first thing he's going to do is make me do that hill, and he's going to show me why I shouldn't do a comeback. You used to get to that rock in 2 minutes. It took you 9 minutes today, champ. This is a bad idea. But there's some things where you have to have that level of discipline, and then having that level of introspection's a whole nother part. And then once you do come to that conclusion, you do have some people you have to convince. Nobody's not doing anything wrong. Use Anderson Silva by example. Anderson Silva, having beaten 12 or 13 guys in a row, being named the GOAT, not only of his division, but of the entire sport, fought nothing less than main events, nothing less than sold-out arenas, all of a sudden go, you know what, I don't know that I want to do this anymore. He's doing nothing wrong. For Chris Weidman, a young up-and-comer that thinks he can come in and grab the belt, no, by the way, I can take out the GOAT in the process and get a whole lot of shine right here. Chris Weidman's doing nothing wrong. For the promotion to not want a champion who's red hot right now to go out without passing the torch, everybody did what they were supposed to do. But if Anderson did want to put that tape and rewind, the only thing he needed to do a better job of is putting his foot down and not going out there and doing it. I don't think my interpretation of him saying this was not that he was forced or pressured into anything. Not at all. That he was encouraged and reminded how great he is and how important he is, and that there was a piece of him that believed it too and wanted to go out there and get one more.